Hey guys, today I've got another Bird by Sleep challenge video. As you can tell from the thumbnail, this is a video solely to see if I can beat the game using only D-Links or Dimension Links. For those of you that don't know, using a D-Link is where we temporarily get to use commands from other characters that we meet throughout the story. Basically like a summon, but this time we summon other characters' powers. I won't go into it too much as I think we all know what D-Links are. Unlike Shotlucks though, you must have a full D-Link gauge to use a D-Link. And this is an important distinction we are making here, as it will play a very important role during boss fights. Once we start a boss fight and use a D-Link, we need to end it with the same D-Link, since we won't be able to reactivate a D-Link during a boss fight. So the rules of the run are simple. I can only attack when a D-Link is active. If there is no D-Link activated, I can't attack enemies or use any commands. Simple as that. This attack command isn't allowed or any of these. There is a caveat though. A few times in the story, Aqua will be forced to have a teammate. So right now when we are fighting with Terra and Ven, the game doesn't let us use D-Links. I'm not sure if to count these moments as a failure or if to just exclude these party fights since we literally can't use D-Links. It's not a lot of times this occurs, but it does happen. So during these fights when we fight with allies, I'll be attacking and using commands since we can't use D-Links. And I only really unlock D-Links after Land of Departure, so it's not like I could even fail the challenge yet. And the second and last rule is that I must beat the game. I don't have to 100% it or clear the final or secret episodes as Aqua. I just need to beat Ventus Vanitas and see the credits. The first world that we can travel to is Cinderella's world, but before I talk about the struggle of beating the game with only D-Links, there are a few strategies which I should discuss with you guys before. Do you guys notice that the D-Link gauge is empty, sort of dark blue or black? The first and most important strategy is the following. Whenever you run out of meter for D-Links, if you exit the world and then re-enter, you'll get a full meter again. I'm not doing any fancy editing tricks, this is real. This is super important for the run as we need to grind early game, mid game, and late game. And since we don't have any items to recover the D-Link gauge yet, this makes the run possible. More on items later though. The second strategy, which isn't really a strategy but I feel that I should bring it up, are the actual commands. So technically I should not have any commands equipped and it should be exactly like my no attack commands video. So I will not be using them. But there's an interesting property with D-Links and commands. Notice that all these commands are level 1 at 0 experience. But now I'm just going to kill some enemies. And I know that we're not in Hollow Bastion yet, but this is just an example. It turns out that we can still level up commands with a D-Link. I allowed this so that I could get abilities. Having completed the challenge, this is 100% not needed. And I regret leveling up as I never melded any abilities with the leveled up commands, but they are in all the clips I have, so I thought I should mention this. Even when using D-Links, we are able to level up commands, which is technically allowed, though not needed. So back to Castle of Dreams, just like with the no attack command playthrough, we are going to need to level up a lot. We need to kill bosses in one D-Link and there are currently no ways of restoring meter, so you'll need to spend a long time just leveling up in the courtyard. And when you run out of meter, or enemies, exit the world and come back in to repeat this until you go up a few levels. Trust me, you need to make Aqua stronger. She hits like a girl. And make sure that you upgrade Ven's D-Link. Screw Terra. The reason we need Ven's D-Link to be upgraded is for his haste ability. This will be super duper times infinity important for the playthrough. Haste makes Aqua swing her Keyblade faster. Faster Keyblade swings means that we can do more damage in a shorter time frame. And since the D-Link gauge will constantly be depleting, this is a must. Of course there's a Jacques segment which we must attack in since we can't use D-Links, but I'm not counting these since the game literally takes away our ability to use D-Links. But can we beat the boss fight with the evil carriage? Well, this is why I've been saying we need to level up and get Ven's haste ability. You need to do both, not one, otherwise the plan won't work. I think there is some sort of HP barrier for the boss early in the fight. The reason being, when the boss takes a certain amount of damage, he'll just get stunned for a few seconds and we can continue wailing on him. Having leveled up a bunch, we do good damage and with haste, we can sort of keep the boss stunned. since we can dish out a lot of damage we normally wouldn't be able to do. I did use the Shotlux here as well, just for that extra bit of damage. But this fight isn't too difficult, and you'll beat him before midnight, just like Cinderella. Our next level is the Dwarf Woodlands, and this level is pretty easy. We really just run in a straight line towards the boss fight, which in itself is not too bad. The most important thing for us in this level is to make sure that we keep leveling up. Before this fight, I ended up getting Ven's second ability, which is the auto counter, which is why Ven is wearing his armor instead of just wearing his regular shirt like before. But that's not really necessary for the run. What's necessary is Aqua's level going up, as we need her to not be doing chip damage. So spend around 10 to 15 minutes, at least just grinding. Having unlocked Ven's second ability gives us a new finisher. This finisher does good damage to enemies and bosses, and most importantly is that it does not consume time on the D-Link meter. This is much better than using Shotlux, as Shotlux consume meter. Back in Castle of Dreams, our D-Link meter did drop when we used the Shotlock. So we will use Ven's finisher basically as soon as we get it unlocked, as we are more concerned with the meter not dropping than damage, at least for this fight, but within a minute this boss will go down. Enchanted Dominion is a total wash. This is the escort mission world where we would have to escort Prince Philip for all the mandatory fights. When we are inside fighting Maleficent's henchmen, we can't use D-Links. Same thing happens when we go outside, as we will once again be forced to fight with Prince Philip, so no D-Links. I think this is very ironic, since this is a level where we get the option to purchase balloon letters and we can't use balloon letters. For those of you that don't know, balloon letters allow us to fully recover our D-Link gauge. For this type of challenge, this is a very useful item, and later on we will be able to buy a bunch of Mega Elixirs, which will also restore the D-Link gauge. Anyways, since Philip is a clingy simp for Aqua, he'll escort us to fight the Maleficent Dragon, and since he's there, we will not be able to use any D-Links for the boss either. And guys, this is an FYI, for if I inspire you to do this, after beating this world, if you return to this bridge, this is a good area to farm D-Link growth early game. I managed to max out all of my D-Links up to this level by just running up and down the bridge. It is entirely optional and very useless since Ven is God, and we shouldn't question his power. But if you want to not be cheap like me and beat the game with the Snow White or Terra D-Link, you can level them up here quickly. Next up is Radiant Garden, and there is good news and bad news. Since Mickey is just as big a simp as Prince Philip, we won't be able to use D-Links here either, so that's the bad news. The good news is that we unlock two things. We unlock Mickey's D-Link, which I'll discuss a bit later, and we get a stronger Keyblade. I swear to you guys, the interesting part is coming, but the Transformers boss is another fight that we can't use D-Links on because now Terra and Ven are the clingy simps that inhibit D-Links. After the Transformers boss, we can finally face our first real boss fight that actually lets us use D-Links. The boss fight against Venitus really isn't too difficult though. Or maybe I should say that we can be cheap enough that he isn't too difficult. I know that I use Shotlocks here, but I don't think they are necessary, as I mainly use them to be invulnerable from Venitus' attacks. Shotlocks do waste a lot of time, so I decided to stop using them. But really, as long as you keep leveling up throughout the world and fight most of the unversed that you come across, you should be at a good enough level to beat Venitus by just spamming Ven's D-Link. There's a reason that I keep talking about leveling up, guys. It's not because I like to hear myself talk. It'll be more important later. But with Venitus beaten for now, we can go to Disney Town to play some relaxing fruit ball. I hate this minigame. It's long and to me is random, but we get a balloon letter, so it's not that terrible. In Olympus, I have good news and bad news. Hercules has the skill to clear the enemies outside, but after a lot of waiting, he'll come across his greatest foe, height. Herc needs those extra inches, or he needs glasses, or he needs to be taught how to hit upwards. He will never hit those flying enemies, so Aqua is forced to fight. I also won't count this as a challenge failed, since we can't use D-Links here, the game takes it away. Where we can fail this challenge is in the actual tournament cups. We do have access to D-Links here. The new problem here is that while we do have access to D-Links, there are 10 rounds of enemies, and the D-Link gauge isn't filled back up when we complete a round. Guys, I'm very proud to say that it is 100% possible to complete the tournament challenges using only Ven's D-Link. I really wasn't expecting this to work, and as a reminder, I haven't used any balloon letters or mega elixirs yet. We are still on track to completing the challenge. Really, you're just trying to be quick here and kill the enemies as fast as possible. I mean, you should already be doing that because of the time limit to finish the rounds, but you're doing it more for the D-Link gauge, as we don't want to repeat the Coliseum Cups again. I do apologize for splitting up all the gameplay on the screen. I know that some of you guys might be watching this on a phone, so this may look like a bunch of colorful explosions on your screen, especially since I'm speeding this up. But this is one of the harder things to do in the run, and I wanted to include it all. I would have sworn that this would be the place that I'd be forced to use a balloon letter or attack, but we got lucky and Ven's D-Link was just enough. And after the Coliseum tournament rounds, you'll have to fight Zack. The good news is that if you can finish the tournament rounds, Zack is a joke. This fight is so relaxing after that. I wish I could give you guys this feeling of not caring and being at ease. It took me less than a minute of real time to beat Zack, and I wanted it to last longer. In this case specifically, it would actually be faster to just avoid using Ven's finish command, as it wastes so much time, since Aqua's ground combos do decent damage. As for Hades and the Ice Titan, I learned something important in this fight. You actually don't need to fight the Ice Titan. You can go directly to fight Hades. The cool thing about this fight is that Aqua will instinctively want to harm the Ice Titan, and will harm him with Ven's combo finisher. So if the Ice Titan is hitting you, he'll just get hit in the crossfire from the combo finisher meant for Hades. Just keep yourself locked onto Hades and comboing him, and you'll eventually win. No lie, this fight actually took me less than a minute to complete, so it's not as difficult as I initially thought it was going to be. Fruit Ball in Disney Town is longer than the Zack and Hades fights combined, to put things into perspective. Deep Space is another wash of a level. When you enter the level, just use Ven or your strongest D-Link because there are a ton of strong enemies and you'll run out of meter. I used Zack at the start and ending up having to kill myself because I ran out of meter. And this is a PSA to those of you that like Bird by Sleep like me, but hate this outside section. I think that I discovered the secret of finishing this part of the level quickly, and you won't have to spin around and make yourself dizzy. Just keep spamming X to use the wing arrow command, and aim sort of in the same area, and the enemies will run into Aqua's shots and die. Thank me later. As for this being a wash of a level, when we finally meet Stitch, we will have to fight since he's a party member, and we can't use D-Link since he is a party member. Same deal with Gantu. I know that if Stitch was not here, we would be able to beat Gantu with just using D-Links, but nevertheless, Aqua is now in Stitch's Ohana, and family never gets left behind, so he won't abandon us. I promise that when I thought of this challenge, I didn't expect to have a bunch of fights, just being exempt from the challenge. Home stretch now, guys. We are finally in Neverland, and this level will be a turning point for the challenge. It's easy enough to literally just run to the end of the level. The problem is Venitus, and this is why I keep saying that we need to level up. If you guys could kindly look at Venitus' HP bar, Aqua is doing near chip damage to him with her combos. I was very worried about this. I thought that this was it for the run and I would be forced to finally use some balloon letters. Before that, I thought that maybe Ven had outlived his usefulness and I decided to try using Mickey. Well, Mickey was also doing chip damage. I ended up learning this fight a bit more, but I'm not that good a player, and the easier, though more time-consuming solution is just to level up. So that's exactly what I did. I spent maybe 20 minutes just leveling up with the gorillas, with bananas on their heads. But there is some more good news. If you guys remember from the Radiant Garden clip way back at the start of the video, when we use Mickey, his second and very important ability is double experience. This helps cut down our grinding time, and since our entire run is all about using D-Links, this works out perfectly. Couple that with the fact that we can just run back to the tree when the enemies are killed here to get back our full D-Link meter will make this a great spot to grind. And this is also a PSA to the three of you out there like me that don't know about the command mini. It's supposed to be followed by Aqua running to crush the enemies with her feet. I play this game a lot, I'm not sure how I missed that. After those crucial 20 minutes, I felt like I was strong enough to take on Venitus. And I definitely was. As you guys can probably expect, I used Ven the God's D-Link and I was no longer doing any chip damage to Venitus. And this is the reason that I love and hate RPGs. You don't have to be good to win, you just need to have no life like me and you can win. I think I leveled up to level 25 to beat him, but don't quote me on that. But the fight took me a little over a minute to beat, so I'm going to say that I slaughtered Venitus. And now we are in the Keyblade Graveyard, and I have some bad news. I did end up using balloon letters here. I know of all the spots in the game, it had to be at the very end. I'm sorry guys, I just can't outrun the tornadoes. I tried. These things are hard to pass. They move faster than Aqua, and apparently I suck at using cartwheel to outrun them. Although one of the tornadoes was kind enough to wait for me to open this treasure chest, so he's a sweetheart. Just kidding, I lied. I didn't want to use any balloon letters, as I wanted to save them for the final boss fights, and it turns out that you can outrun the tornadoes. I looked at some speedruns of the game, and it turns out that only one tornado will chase after you at a time. So all you have to do is spam cartwheel next to the tornadoes as you make your way to the other side, and you'll avoid them. They won't collide with each other, and again, only one will chase after Aqua. It does take some guts to cartwheel next to them though, I won't lie about that. But just like we did with Venitus, we will need to level up here. This will be the majority of the remaining time that we spend doing this challenge. Once we make it to the save point, we can grind to the tornadoes without having to worry about the dealing gauge, since we can just run back to said save point. We're still going to use the Mickey double experience D-Link and cut in half our grinding time, so this won't be as bad as the no attack command challenge. But we still have to grind. Link to the no attack command challenge in the description. After you think that you've leveled up enough, buy all the balloon letters and mega elixirs that you want in order to fight Braig and Ventus Vanitas. The funny thing is that I actually went into the fight with balloon letters and a mega elixir ready to use them, as I was expecting to run out of the D-Link gauge. I was totally ready to be forced to use a balloon letter to refill the D-Link gauge, but I guess I am skilled or lucky enough that I was able to beat Braig without having to get out of the D-Link. This fight actually took around a minute to complete and wasn't at all hard. I was hyping this up way more than I needed to. The sad part for this challenge though is that Braig will be our final D-Link boss fight. We can't use D-Links in the next fight, so once we beat Braig, the challenge is essentially done. When we get forced to fight with Mickey against Ventus Vanitas, this fight will be a bit rough. I didn't put a cure command since I'm not using commands, so I had to make sure to not take too much damage during this fight, and this boss hits hard. Luckily, this is not Kingdom Hearts 2, which would make us redo the Braig fight if we fail, but being the MLG player I am, I only failed a few times, not a dozen times. But with the help of Mickey Mouse, we will be able to beat Ventus Vanitas and complete the challenge. So is it possible to beat Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep using only D-Links? Yes and no. The answer is no, but that's if you count the times when the game forces us to have party members. It literally removes the option for us to use D-Links and forces us to fail the challenge. The answer could also be yes, but that's if you don't count the times the game forces us to have party members. I'm going to say that we passed and did beat the game using only D-Links. I completely avoided using balloon letters as well during this playthrough, so it is 100% possible to beat this game without any type of commands. I said at the beginning that I equipped attack and magic commands so I could meld abilities with them, but I never melded any abilities, since I never struggled long enough to force me to meld commands and abilities. So this challenge could be done exactly like my no attack command challenge. Overall, this was a fun challenge, and I do recommend this challenge, unlike the no attack command challenge. I never imagined D-Links would be this useful, as you can actually beat the game with them, and they are fun to use. Granted, I think a lot of praise should be directed towards Ventus, as I mainly use Ven's D-Link to fight, and rarely experimented with others. So completing this challenge may only be possible with the Ventus D-Link. I'm probably wrong, as I haven't tried the other D-Links, and I'm sure with enough grinding we could probably beat all the bosses with the Snow White D-Link. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed, and if you have any ideas for a challenge video, or just want to chat, leave a comment down below. Thank you for watching.
See you soon.